And I know that Dieter and Jenny have dedicated their lives not only to truth, but to youth. And for that and for this youth weekend, we so appreciate you being here. And would you please give Dieter a great round of applause?
So, do you remember when you were young and you knew everything? Do you remember that feeling? How's that working out for you now? Man, I remember that. I remember that so vividly, even though it was much longer ago than I care to think about. I remember that feeling because I really subscribed to the idea that sooner or later I could get the whole universe to fit between my ears. I really thought it could be done. And I grew up with heroes that seemed to know everything. All the way from Jesus all the way over to James Bond, everybody seemed to know everything that was going on. And I thought, well, that was me too. I could do that. I could get it all figured out. I really had this idea that at some point, if I worked hard enough, if I applied myself, if I met expectations enough, somebody would take me aside and say, okay, now you have worked hard enough. You know enough stuff. Now I'm going to take you into the secret meeting and I will give you all world knowledge. I will give you a certificate or a black belt or a special decoder ring or something will happen. And all of a sudden you'll get to know everything. I really thought that was how it would work. And you know, because you are a Unity person, that you get what you're ready for. You know that you will create a life for yourself based on your expectations. As a person thinketh in their heart, so are they, and thoughts held in mind reproduce after their kind, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so, being the kind of person who thought I could figure it all out, and I could just sort of own all knowledge, I drew unto myself a lot of successes in that area. I just sort of had life figured out. I was a really good student. So good, in fact, that when I was 13 years old, I entered college. I had it all figured out. Check. I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to be a minister even when I was a little kid. Check. Got that handled. When I was in Youth of Unity, I was a teenager. A young lady walked into that room, and I knew in that moment that I loved her. And I saw Jenny and I said, check. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. And man, do I know how to milk applause. But I had so much of life figured out. And yet, that meeting never came. That moment when someone would give me all world knowledge and tell me I was officially a grown-up and I was officially done never happened. In fact, I found the opposite. Every time I got to a horizon, you know what I found? Another horizon. And so things were going good. I was having fun and meeting with all kinds of success, and yet I was feeling tired. Because when you try to fit the universe between your ears, when you try to master it all, when you try to have everything come from you, you will meet success, but you will get tired because it's not your job to run things. God is in charge. Sometimes people say, God is my co-pilot. I would rather let Him drive. I'll work the radio. But you see, that's a lesson that I learned the hard way. I was doing pretty good in life. I had a pretty good bead on things. I had everything figured out pretty well. And then the woman who's my wife now, but at the time was my fiance, said, Dieter, you are going to be a daddy. And now, I'm a Unity person, and so I said, let's not affirm that. Because you see, we get what we ask for, and I was not ready for that. And that's the thing, I wasn't ready for it. And I had this idea that the only things I wanted were things that fit within my expectations, truthfully, that fit within my ego. That's the same thing, isn't it? I really thought, okay, this is unexpected. If you've ever been around a child, you know that they are unexpected in so many ways, and I was not ready, and therefore it must not happen. And Jenny said, it's great that you're not affirming this, however, it's happening. And you and me, we're going to go to the doctor now. And I'm a stand-up guy, so I went. And they put all kinds of gear on her, and they put some kind of jelly on her and a machine and hooked her up to this thing that looked like a little television set. And on the television set was this little picture of something that looked for all the world like a kidney bean. And that kidney bean had a heartbeat. And I kept watching the heartbeat. And as I did, I found something happen inside of me. I was almost hypnotized by it. And with every beat of that heart, with every beat, it was like someone was putting a nail into a brand new house. With every beat of that heart, I found myself change. And with every beat of that heart, I began to realize something really important that really changed my life, and it was this: I don't know anything. And I got to tell you, every moment of parenthood since then has reinforced that idea that I don't know anything. But you know what? Here's the miraculous thing. In that moment, I was okay with that. I began to realize that it didn't matter. I don't need to know it. I don't need to own it. I just need to show up for it. And that's different. And that is freeing. This is a unique idea in some ways. I mean, we tell our kids they're supposed to own everything and know everything. We ask little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Have you declared a major? Where are you going to be next? We ask adults, where are you going to be in 5 years at the job interview? How can you know that? And yet we place so much value on knowing and owning and controlling. And we think of successful people as the kind of people who can determine every moment of their lives. If you show me someone who owns everything and everybody has to do it their way, well, that's often thought of as a successful person. It's also a person I wouldn't want to spend 5 minutes with. But that's often the status symbol. But you know, when I think about all of the good times I ever had, every moment when something felt like magic. That's the word I like to use, magic. But you could use the word miracle or good times or whatever you want. Anytime something worked out, whenever it happened, whatever it happened to be, from an amazing large miracle, seeing true love and knowing it, or a doctor putting a baby in your arms, all the way down to getting the job that you needed to get, or a good parking space. Hey, if it's all God, if there's only one presence and one power, it's all miracles. And I want to let you know that you don't get the big ones until you can praise the little ones. Every time something magic happened for me, and man, I have been so blessed. Every time something magic, miraculous, wonderful happened for me, the feeling I had was never, hey, I did this. I knew that was going to happen. I did it. No, every time something magic happened, the feeling I had was utter surprise. I can't believe this happened. What do you know? I didn't expect that. Every time something magic happened, the feeling I had was surprise and delight. And you know what? I don't know where you've been, and I don't know what you're working on, but I can bet that you have the same experience. Because you know what? The universe is bigger than you and me. Isn't that good? Life is bigger than you and me. God is bigger than you and me. Love is bigger than you and me. Thank you, God, for surprises. Thank you, God, for those moments where, good or bad, I was forced to open up a little bit more. And either way, I grew. Thank you, God. But like I said, that's a surprise for some people. That's different for some people. I mean, think about all of the ways that people try to keep themselves safe. Think of all of the ways that people try to keep fear out, to keep from getting messy, to keep surprises away, to keep the unexpected away. Think of all the products that you can see on home shopping or in the store. Think of all the religions. If you do this, if you participate in this thing, if you put enough money in the basket, if you subscribe to this 5 easy payment plan, I can guarantee that you'll never get messy, and you'll never have anything that's unexpected, and there will never be a surprise, and you will never be interesting. They don't say that part. That's what they mean, but they don't say that part. Think about all of the things that people have done to try to protect themselves from surprises, but surprises is exactly what you need. You don't need more information. You need more fun. I mean, think about it this way. At this moment, we have unprecedented access to all world knowledge. Most of the people in this room have a device in their pocket or in their purse that give them access to every piece of information ever. Right now, you can find out the temperature in China. You can find out what Kim Kardashian is wearing or not wearing. You have more information. We are closer than we have ever been before to our ability to predict what's going to happen next. We have all of that information handled. I mean, imagine trying to explain the internet to Ben Franklin. We have more information than ever before, but I want to ask you something. Is it making us happier? Is it making our lives better? Or instead, is it just causing more problems? Now people can't talk to each other because they're looking at their hands. Because when you try to solve a problem through external means, you just create more external problems. Like I said, the universe will not fit between your ears. I've tried, I don't recommend it. But you know, this is an old story, isn't it? The idea that I know best, that I'm going to make it happen, and that nobody else knows, and that there's no room for surprises. It reminds me of one of my very favorite spiritual movies. It's a film called Jurassic Park. Very, very deeply spiritual film. It's been out for like 20 years, so it's okay if I spoil the movie, right? Dinosaurs come out, they eat Samuel L. Jackson. Things happen. It's a typical disaster movie kind of thing. We think we know, things get out of control, and then things get fixed, right? There's this great part around the end of Act 2 where John Hammond, he's the guy who owns the park. He's the kind of the mad scientist type of guy that sort of, it's all his idea and it's really all his fault. That guy, the guy in white with the beard. He's talking, and he's talking about why it broke, why the dinosaurs got out and started eating Samuel L. Jackson. And he says this. He says, "The problem is we didn't want it bad enough." The quote is, "Creation is an act of sheer will." Now, he's completely wrong, and that's the point. But what he says in his little speech is, it didn't work because we didn't want it bad enough. We didn't control it enough. We didn't have enough of our ego involved in it. We didn't own it enough. We have to just have more will. Have you ever been in a situation where things didn't work out for you and you decided to pour more of your ego and will into it? Did it work better for you, or did Samuel L. Jackson get eaten? The moral of the Jurassic Park story is a deeply spiritual moral because it's this: life finds a way. You have to let it, whatever it is for you, you have to let it be it, instead of trying to make it your way. Let me give you a quote not from that movie. "Not my will, but thine be done." But like I said, that's the old story. That's every horror movie. That's Frankenstein, right? It's every disaster movie. It's Godzilla, if you look at it funny. And in fact, it's also every love story. I mean, how many movies have you seen where you've got the hard-headed person in the beginning who's closed off to love and all of that, and they just don't get it, and something happens, something disastrous happens, and all of a sudden they open up and they realize that person who was there right next to them all along was their one true love. How many movies? That's every Nora Ephron film. That's every love story. That's every story. The story is the same. Let God know best. Let Father know best. And get out of the way. There's really only a few stories in human culture. And that particular story, the story of, I want to know everything, and oh, wait a minute, I can't know everything, goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. I mean, think about it. Here's these people in this place of perfect oneness with God. The idea that there's no separation, there's just good, there's just love, there's just beauty, there's just God. No separation, even symbolized by the fact that they're not even wearing clothes. There's no barriers. And even in that perfect place, because you and I are free, some people decided, well, you know what? It's great that we're all just here with God, but what if we knew better? What if I took in this idea, symbolized by eating the fruit, that always means taking in. What if I took in this idea that instead of everything being good, some stuff is good, and some stuff is bad? Eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's too many times to use the word of in a sentence, but there you go. And that's why God shows up and says, everybody out of the pool. It's not because anybody's being punished, but simply because that's how it works. In the same way that if I let something go, it will fall to the ground. That's just the way the universe works. I can't be in a place of perfect oneness and have an idea of two-ness, of duality, in my head. You can't have it both ways. And that's why they say original sin. Boy, that's a word you didn't think you'd hear here on Unity, huh? But let me get real clear about that just for a moment. Knowing what you know about Unity and knowing what you know about me, do you think that I'm going to tell you that you were born no good? Does that feel right to you? Does that work for you? Man, I'll tell you, if I went to a carpenter and I bought a bookshelf and I put it up in my house and the books are falling off on the floor and the shelves don't work right and the paint job is terrible and it's falling apart the moment I get it, I'm going to say, that's a pretty bad carpenter. You know a worker by the quality of their work, right? Well, if you're born no good, what does that say about God? The Bible I read says image and likeness. The Bible I read says good and very good. The Bible I read says light of the world. The Bible I read says our Father. Yeah, of course we got growing to do. Yeah, of course we got healing to do. Yeah, of course we got things to learn. Praise God, we got things to learn. But we can learn those things. We can get better about those things when we start by remembering who we are. And I'm here to tell you, you're love, and you are light, and you are beauty, because I know whose dad you have. And so original sin has nothing to do with starting out no good. Instead, it's original sin because it's the first one. If you think you know better than God, it will lead to all of the other sins, all of the other problems, all the other dumb things you ever did. That's why it's original. It's the first one. And so if you're trying to fix something in your life, I can't get along with this person, or I can't figure out the job situation, or I can't figure out the romance situation, or whatever. If you're trying to fix something in your life, take it back to the original sin. And it may just be that the problem you really have is, did I try to know better than God about something? Maybe I need to get out of the way. That's a different idea. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and said, what are the secret words to get God to show up? I mean, they don't say it exactly that way, but they say, what's the new book? What's the new seminar or workshop? How can I get God to show up? What's the secret combination of words? As though God lived in a treehouse and you had to know the password. How do I get God to show up? But you know what? It's not the words you say, is it? It's who you are. It's what you believe. And every moment, the universe is asking you that question. What do you believe? Can you have a little bit bigger God? Can you have a little bit bigger idea about who you are? Can you get out of the way a little bit more? What do you believe? Because I'll tell you, what you believe is what you're going to get. If you believe that you're made out of love, that you're worth love, that there's opportunities for love, you're going to find love. Opportunities for love. Beautiful experiences. And I'll tell you, if you believe that people are no damn good and the world is going to let you down, you will find countless examples to prove your hypothesis. It's your choice. As it is written, choose this day who you will serve. The fact that you're here gives me your answer to that question. But it's about service, isn't it? I'm not interested in making the universe happen. I'm interested in letting the universe happen, because you know what? Surprises will come. Can you be okay with that? Surprises will come. You can fight it, and you can be afraid of it, and you can curse it, and you can try to hold back the tide with your bare hands. Or you can surf. I think the secret to life is that it ought to be a little less like paddling and a little bit more like surfing, because the tide will take you home if you let it. You don't have to be in charge. That's what I want you to know. You don't have to be in charge. Let God be God. I know people who have to run everything, who have to do it their own way, who have to control every moment that happens, who have to be in charge. You know who they are? 3-year-olds. You've ever been around a 3-year-old, you know that feeling. I can't tell you how many times I have stood in front of my house with arms full of grocery bags, but I can't open a door because my little one has to open the door. Me do it. And man, if I touch that doorknob, we are in for a fit. And so I stand there with ice cream melting in my grocery bags. And you're laughing because you've experienced something similar. Children, immaturity says, I have to do it all myself. The most mature thing you can ever say is, you know what? I'm teachable. You know what? I could use some help. I am open and receptive to a bigger idea. Isn't that what we want? Maturity says, you know what? My ego isn't all caught up in knowing what's going to happen next, because I know that no matter what, I'm going to be me and God's going to be God. What else do I need? You want to be okay? Trust yourself. Doesn't matter what's going to happen next, because you're going to be you. And if you want to work on that, I got 3 words for you. 3 ideas that I want you to think about. Are you ready? Those ideas are wonder and outrage and love. I'm going to say that again because it's important to me. Wonder, outrage, and love. And you will be having a happy experience to the degree that you can master those 3 ideas, wonder and outrage and love. Wonder is something you know all about because you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about. Wonder is that if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, do it as a little child part of you. Remember what it was like when you were a little kid and everything was brand new and everything was magic and everything was special? You're allowed to live that way now. People say, well, that's great, but you know, I'm older now. I'm getting older now, and I don't see as much brand new stuff and as much magic stuff and as much special. But I want you to know that that's what makes you old. Not the other way around. You are old to the degree that you stop being amazed by the things that go on around you. And it's a choice. Because life is always changing. There is something wonderful going on in your life right now. And to the degree that you can look at it with amazement, you will learn from it and you will grow and life gets better. You want life to get better? Do this. Find a way to replace diversion with delight. Replace diversion with delight. There's a lot of ways to get distracted by the toys that we have or the drama that we have or the stuff going on. But you know what? What if we can get done with that and remember that there is something delightful going on today? That's wonder. Be open. And that brings me to outrage. And that's another word that you don't often hear in Unity. But it's a great word. I'm not talking about anger. I don't need you to be mad. I need you to be outrageous. I need you to speak your truth. Outrage is the thing that says, you know what, I know better. I see that you're made out of love. I see that God is here, and I refuse to settle for less than beauty. From myself, and you know what, from you too. We're going to grow together. That's what outrage says. It's not about anger at all. It's about saying, I am not going to settle anymore for what used to be. In the story of the emperor's new clothes, the child is expressing outrage when he says, hey, look, there's a naked emperor. He's not mad. He's honest. There are people in the world that are so afraid to be who they are, So afraid to speak their truth. So afraid that they won't get the job, or that somebody won't like them, or what will people think if I am who I feel like I am on the inside. But here's what I need you to know. The people who love you deserve your honesty. The people who love you deserve your honesty. Be you. Be outrageous in your declarations of love. Hug a stranger at McDonald's if it helps you. Do what you got to do to be outrageous in your love. There's that third word. Love is that idea of universal unity. Love is that idea that we're all in this together. That winged globe symbol of unity is a wonderful symbol of that. Think about that with me for a moment. There are so many religions that are designed to help you pack your bags. Do you know what I mean when I say that? There are so many religions that say, if you put up with this stuff for long enough, you get to escape and go away. This place, not so good. But if you go away, if you participate in this long enough, you get to go away to heaven or nirvana or Detroit or whatever. I'm not here to judge. You get to escape. And you know what? That's a valid belief system. It's not my belief system, but it's a valid belief system. But I do think it causes a problem. Here's the problem. If you and I are in a romantic relationship together and I say this to you, you know what, it's great that we're in love and all that, but as soon as Mrs. Right comes along, I'm out of here. Is that a healthy relationship, or are we going to be on Dr. Phil? Well, if you've got one foot out the spiritual door all the time, it's hard to make this a better place. And you're supposed to make this a better place. Let me put it this way. If you were supposed to be miserable, why would Jesus have helped anybody? Wouldn't he have looked at the sick people and gone, hey, good luck, you're doing good. Nice work being sick. Maybe even poked him in the eye, too. Nice work on that misery. But he helped, and he healed, and he taught, and he blessed, and he loved. You are here to love. There's somebody in this life, right here and right now, that's ready for your love, that's ready for your truth, that's ready for your forgiveness. Maybe it's you. But who you are is capable of that kind of love and that kind of blessing. Don't be afraid anymore. Know who you are and live that life. Speak your truth and set it free. Because after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you.